The moment Lauren walked back into our house after 6 weeks of needing space, mascara running, designer bag on the floor, hands shaking as she reached for me, I knew Christopher had finally abandoned her, and I knew my 2-year plan was about to pay off. If you've got about 40 minutes and maybe something to drink, settle in. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about catching a cheating wife. It's about what happens when the guy who spends his life saving everyone else finally learns to save himself. So here's the question that probably seems obvious now but haunted me for 731 days straight. Why did I wait 2 years to blow up her world when I found out she was cheating? The answer's simple and complicated at the same time. I'm a paramedic. I save people for a living. That's literally my job description. And for most of my adult life, I thought that's who I was supposed to be in my marriage too. The guy who fixes things, the guy who holds it together, the guy who, no matter how bad it gets, finds a way to make it work. But somewhere between finding out my wife had been living a double life for 3 years and watching her come crawling back after her rich boyfriend vanished, I realized something. You can't save someone who's actively drowning you, and more importantly, you shouldn't have to. This is the story of how I went from being a man who couldn't imagine life without his wife to becoming the kind of person who could sit across from her, watch her beg for forgiveness, and feel absolutely nothing. It's about a marriage that looked perfect on the outside, a betrayal that lasted longer than some people's entire relationships, and a revenge plan so calculated that when it finally went off, it hit every single domain of her life at exactly the same time. Her career, her reputation, her family, her friends, her sense of safety, everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all started, or at least where I thought it started. My name's Robert Mitchell. I'm 42 now, but this story really begins when I was 35, standing in an overpriced hotel ballroom at some charity gala in downtown Chicago. I was there working. My station had volunteered to provide EMT coverage for the event, which was one of those things where rich people pay $500 a plate to feel good about themselves while eating rubber chicken and drinking wine that costs more than my weekly grocery bill. I noticed Lauren immediately. She was hard to miss, not just because she was beautiful, though she was, but because she had this energy about her. She was coordinating the whole event, talking to caterers and sponsors and donors, moving through that room like she owned it. At one point, some elderly guy had what looked like a cardiac episode near the dessert table, and while everyone else was panicking, Lauren just calmly walked over to where I was standing and said, "I think we need you." That was September 2018. We were married by May 2019. Courthouse wedding, just us and 2 witnesses, because Lauren said she wanted something simple and intimate. "I don't need the big show," she told me. "I just need you." I remember thinking at the time how lucky I was to find someone who valued the same things I did. Someone who didn't care about flashy weddings or expensive rings. Someone who was practical and grounded and real. Turns out she just didn't want her future side piece at our wedding, but I didn't know that then. Back then, I was just a guy who'd spent most of his 20s and early 30s buried in work, picking up extra shifts, building a career, buying a small house in Logan Square that I was stupidly proud of. And suddenly I had this smart, ambitious, beautiful woman who wanted to build a life with me. We fell into a routine pretty quickly. I'd work my rotating schedule at the station, 24-hour shifts, then 48 hours off. And she'd climb the ladder at this boutique marketing agency called Vertex Marketing Group. She started as a coordinator, making maybe $50K, but within a year she was a senior manager, pulling $85K. We kept separate bank accounts. That was her thing. "I'm independent," she'd say. "I need to feel like I'm contributing, not just being taken care of." And I respected that. I really did. So I paid the mortgage on my house, well, our house now, and covered utilities, groceries, most of the joint expenses. She'd contribute here and there, but honestly, I wanted her to save her money. She had goals. She wanted to move up in her career, maybe start her own agency someday. I loved being the guy who could give her that foundation, that safety net while she chased her dreams. If you've ever been the person in a relationship who gives more than they take, you probably know exactly where this is going. The first 2 years were good. Really good, actually. We'd do Sunday dinners. Lauren would cook these elaborate meals and we'd sit at our little kitchen table and talk about our weeks. She'd tell me about office politics and difficult clients, and I'd tell her about calls that stuck with me. We had friends over. We took weekend trips to Wisconsin and Michigan. We had sex 3-4 times a week. It was normal. It was happy. It was the kind of life I'd always wanted. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, things started to crack. It was late 2020 when I first noticed the changes. Lauren got promoted to Director of Strategy. Big title, bigger salary, $110K. I was proud of her. Took her out to dinner at this nice Italian place to celebrate. But after that promotion, the late nights started. 2-3 times a week, she'd text me around 7 p.m. "Still at the office, babe. Don't wait up." I'd heat up leftovers alone, watch TV alone, go to bed alone. When I'd mention it, she'd get defensive. "This is what you wanted, right? For me to succeed." Well, this is what success looks like, Robert. The weekend work trips increased too. Industry conferences, client dinners, strategy retreats. She'd be gone Friday through Sunday, sometimes longer. I'd ask about her trips, and she'd give me vague answers. It was fine, just a lot of networking. She stopped asking about my shifts, stopped cooking. Our Sunday dinners disappeared. Our sex life went from regular to occasional to basically non-existent. By early 2021, we were having sex maybe once a month, if that. And when we did, she felt distant, like she was going through the motions. I tried to talk to her about it, suggested couples therapy. She shut that down fast. "We don't need therapy, Robert. We're just in a rut. All couples go through this." She'd kiss my cheek, tell me she loved me, and then disappear into her phone for the rest of the evening. That phone. God, that phone became like a third person in our marriage. She'd keep it face down on the table, take calls in the bathroom, changed her password. She'd never had one before. When I mentioned it, she exploded. "Are you seriously going to start tracking me now? What, you don't trust me? You want to control my phone like some psycho husband?" And here's the thing. I apologized. I actually apologized for noticing that my wife's behavior had completely changed. Because that's what you do when you've been gaslit long enough. You start questioning your own reality. You start thinking, maybe you're being paranoid. Maybe you are the problem. I planned a weekend getaway for us. Booked a cabin in Wisconsin. Nothing fancy. Just us and nature and a chance to reconnect. She canceled the day before. "Work emergency. I'm so sorry, babe. Rain check." There was no rain check. Then I found the receipt. It was in her car. I was looking for the insurance card after a fender bender. And there it was, folded up in the glove compartment. Gibson's Steakhouse. 340. Date, stamped on a Tuesday night. A Tuesday night she'd told me she was working late at the office and would just grab something quick on the way home. I confronted her, showed her the receipt, asked her as calmly as I could who she'd had dinner with and why she'd lied about it. She looked at that receipt, like I'd just pulled out a gun. And then she turned it around on me so fast I got whiplash. "You went through my car. You're checking receipts now. What's next, Robert? You're going to follow me." This is exactly why we have problems. You don't trust me. It was a client dinner. A client dinner. I'm trying to build my career and you're treating me like a criminal. I apologized again. I actually said the words, "I'm sorry," for finding evidence that my wife was lying to me. That was March 2021, and for the next 9 months the red flags just kept piling up. New wardrobe, designer labels, expensive lingerie I never saw her wear. When I'd comment on it, she'd snap, "Not everyone wears a uniform to work, Robert. I need to look professional." She started coming home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Stopped wearing her wedding ring some days. It was hurting my finger. She'd stay out until 10-11 p.m. on work nights, then come home and go straight to the guest room. You were snoring last night. I need to sleep. I felt like I was losing my mind, like I was watching my marriage dissolve in real time, and everyone, including my own wife, was telling me I was imagining it. And then, in December 2021, my buddy Tyler pulled me aside at the station. Tyler's been a firefighter for 15 years, known me since the academy. He grabbed my shoulder one afternoon and said, "Brother, I need to tell you something, and you're not gonna like it." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I saw Lauren last week at the Signature Room. That's the restaurant on the 95th floor of the John Hancock building, the kind of place you go for proposals and anniversaries. She was with some guy, older, nice suit, and man." Tyler looked uncomfortable. "They were close, like holding hands close, like kissing close." I remember just standing there, feeling like someone had punched me in the chest. My first instinct, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, was to defend her. It was probably a client. She has a lot of male clients. Tyler gave me this look. "Robert, I've known you for 12 years. I'm not trying to start shit. I'm just telling you what I saw." That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at Lauren's back. She'd moved to the guest room permanently by then, said my snoring was too much, and thought about every lie, every excuse, every deflection. And for the first time, I let myself think the thought I'd been avoiding for months. My wife is cheating on me. I should have seen it then, but I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it, because believing it meant my entire life was a lie. You know what's worse than finding out your wife is cheating? Spending weeks, months, gathering the courage to actually investigate. Because once you start looking, you can't unsee what you find. And some part of me knew that once I confirmed it, everything would change, but I had to know. In January 2022, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. His name was Marcus Webb. Came recommended by a divorce attorney one of the guys at the station had used. I met Marcus at a coffee shop in Evanston, away from anyone who might know me. I handed him a retainer check for $2,500, money I'd been saving for a fishing boat, and told him everything. The late nights, the trips, the receipts, Tyler's siding. Marcos looked at me with these sad, tired eyes, I'm guessing he'd seen this story 1,000 times, and said, "Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to be straight with you. In about 90% of these cases, the spouse is cheating, and in the other 10%, they're planning to leave. Either way, you're going to want proof before you make any decisions. But here's my advice. Don't change your behavior. Act normal. Let me do the work." Acting normal was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I did it. I went to work, came home, made small talk with Lauren, pretended I didn't notice when she'd disappear into the bathroom with her phone for 20 minutes, pretended I didn't care when she told me she'd be traveling for work again, and Marcus got to work. The first report came in February 2022. Photos, time-stamped, dated, geotagged. Lauren's car parked outside a luxury high-rise at 1000 North Lakeshore Drive in the Gold Coast. Her entering the building at 10:15 a.m. on a Wednesday, leaving at 4:37 p.m. This wasn't some hotel, this was a residential building, and she'd gone there on 3 separate occasions that week. Days she'd told me she was in all-day strategy sessions at the office. Marcus had done his homework. He identified the man, Christopher Hartwell, age 47, founder and CEO of Hartwell Capital Partners, a venture capital firm. Net worth estimated at $18 million. Divorced twice, no kids, penthouse unit on the 42nd floor. And according to public records, he'd purchased that penthouse in 2019, the same year Lauren and I got married. I read that report in my truck outside the station, and I threw up in the parking lot. Just bent over and vomited until there was nothing left. But that was just the beginning. Over the next 3 months, Marcus sent me report after report. Credit card records he'd obtained through some private investigator magic I didn't ask about. Lauren had a secret American Express card, stays at luxury hotels when she was traveling for work, except the hotels were in Chicago, and Christopher's card was paying for them. Shopping sprees at Neiman Marcus and Saks, $8,000 in 3 months. Dinner reservations at Alinea, RPM Italian, the Publican, always for 2. Always on his card. And then Marcus found the worst part. Lauren had clothes at Christopher's place, toiletries, a whole second life. She wasn't just cheating. She was essentially living with him 3-4 days a week. Monday and Tuesday she'd be my wife. Wednesday through Friday she'd be his girlfriend. Weekends she'd split between us, depending on what lies she told. I remember sitting in Marcus's office in May 2022, looking at a 200-page report detailing my wife's double life, and asking him, "How long do you think this has been going on?" Marcus pulled up a timeline. Based on the credit card activity and building security footage I was able to access, I'd estimate she's been seeing him regularly since at least October 2020, possibly earlier. 3 years! My wife had been living a secret life for 3 years. I should have confronted her right then. That's what most people would do, right? Catch your cheating spouse, blow everything up, get it over with. But I didn't, and I didn't because of what happened next. I had a breakdown, not a dramatic screaming, throwing things breakdown. A quiet one. The kind where you lose 15 pounds in 3 weeks because you can't eat. Where you lie awake every night staring at the ceiling, wondering what's wrong with you that your own wife would rather be with someone else. Where you start seeing a therapist, Dr. Ellen Cho, because you're afraid if you don't talk to someone, you might actually lose it completely. Dr. Cho asked me in our 3rd session, "Robert, why do you think you're holding on to this information instead of confronting Lauren?" "Because," I said, and my voice cracked, "if I confront her, she'll just lie again. She'll deny it or manipulate me or make me feel like I'm crazy. And I can't go through that again." "So what do you want?" she asked. I thought about it for a long time. I want to protect myself. How? I don't know yet. But I figured it out. Over the next few sessions with Dr. Cho, and after a consultation with a divorce attorney named Jonathan Price, I came up with a plan. Not a revenge plan, not yet. Just a protection plan. Document everything. Build an airtight case. Secure my assets. And when the time was right, when I was ready, I'd file for divorce with enough evidence that Lauren couldn't touch me financially or legally. Jonathan told me something that stuck with me. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, which means adultery doesn't matter for the divorce itself, but it absolutely matters for asset division and alimony. If you can prove she was using marital funds to support an affair, you can claim she dissipated marital assets. That means she'd have to reimburse you, and with this level of evidence, she won't get a dime of alimony. So I waited. I kept Marcus on retainer at $1,500 a month. I opened a separate bank account Lauren didn't know about and started moving money, $800 a month. I stopped initiating any affection with Lauren, and honestly, she barely noticed. I became a ghost in my own marriage, just going through the motions, waiting. And then, in September 2023, everything changed. Christopher's company got raided by the FBI. It was all over the news. Federal investigation into insider trading, securities fraud. His assets were frozen. His reputation was destroyed overnight. And suddenly, Christopher Hartwell went from being a millionaire venture capitalist to being a guy facing federal charges and potential prison time. Lauren came home that night, September the 19th. I remember it exactly, and she looked shaken, pale, wouldn't make eye contact. She said she'd had a rough day at work and went straight to bed. I knew Christopher's world was falling apart, and by extension, so was hers. And then on October 12, 2023, Lauren didn't come home. She sent me a text around 8 p.m. "Need some space, staying at Rachel's for a few days. Don't worry about me." I called her sister, Rachel. "Hey, is Lauren with you?" Rachel sounded confused. "No. Why would she be here?" I hung up. I knew exactly where she was. She was with Christopher, trying to figure out what to do now that their fantasy life was imploding. I called Marcus. "I need everything, every photo, every record, every piece of evidence. I'm done waiting." Marcus said. You sure? Once you pull the trigger, there's no going back. I've been ready for 2 years, I told him. And I meant it. For 731 days, I'd been preparing for this, collecting evidence, moving money, building my case, talking to lawyers, going to therapy, becoming someone who could walk away from a marriage that had been dead for years without second-guessing myself. I save people for a living, but for 2 years I'd been learning how to save myself. 6 weeks. That's how long Lauren stayed gone. 6 weeks of radio silence, except for a few texts. Still need time. Working through something. I'll explain everything soon. Meanwhile, I knew from Marcus that Christopher had fled the country, private jet to the Cayman Islands, probably trying to access offshore accounts before the feds seized everything. And Lauren, she'd been fired. Marcus confirmed it through a contact at Vertex Marketing. The company had found out about her relationship with Christopher. Conflict of interest, since she'd pitched to his firm as a potential client back in 2020. Once the FBI started investigating Christopher, Vertex's legal team did their own internal audit and found evidence that Lauren had been billing personal expenses as client development. She was terminated for cause on October 18th. No severance, no unemployment eligibility, just gone. I knew all this before she walked back into our house on October 14, 2023, at 11:47 p.m. I was sitting at the kitchen table when I heard her key in the lock. I'd actually forgotten I hadn't changed the locks yet. That was on my to-do list for the next day. The door opened, and there she was. Designer Chanel bag. Gift from Christopher, probably. Dropped on the floor like it was suddenly too heavy to carry. Mascara streaked down her face, hair that usually looked perfect now a mess. And her hands were shaking. "Robert," she said, and her voice cracked. "I need to talk to you." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt. Just this strange, hollow calm. "Okay," I said, "talk." She sat down across from me, and I could smell the desperation on her. She clasped her hands together like she was praying. "Christopher and we were close, too close. It's over now, he's gone." "Gone where?" I asked, even though I knew. "I don't know," she said, and she started crying. "His company. There's legal trouble. He left, blocked my number, blocked everything, and She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "I made a mistake, Robert. I was confused. But I love you. I've always loved you. And I want to fix this. I want us to fix this." I watched her cry. Watched her perform this whole scene like we were in some Lifetime movie. And I thought about the 1,005 days she'd lied to my face. The nights I'd spent wondering what was wrong with me. The therapy sessions where I'd questioned my own sanity, the receipts, the photos, the hotel rooms, the designer clothes bought with another man's money while I paid our mortgage. And I thought about the fact that if Christopher hadn't been raided by the FBI, if his world hadn't collapsed, she'd still be with him right now. She didn't come back because she loved me. She came back because I was her safety net, her backup plan. The guy who would always be there to save her. But I wasn't that guy anymore. "Lauren," I said, and my voice was so calm it surprised me. "I'm hurt. I need time to process this." She looked so relieved, like she'd expected me to scream or throw things or kick her out. "Of course," she said quickly. "Take all the time you need. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, couples counseling, whatever you want. I'll prove to you that I choose you, that I choose us. I just need space tonight," I said. "Can you sleep in the guest room?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. Yes, absolutely." She stood up, hesitated, then reached for me again. "I love you, Robert." I didn't say it back. After she went upstairs, I sat there for another hour. Then, I went down to the basement where I'd been keeping Marcus's final report. 400 pages, printed and bound. Every photo, every receipt, every text message he'd managed to recover. Every piece of evidence showing exactly who my wife really was. I read through it one more time, and for the first time in 2 years I cried. Not because I was losing her. I'd already lost her a long time ago. I cried because I was finally letting go of the man I used to be. The man who thought love meant sacrifice without boundaries. The man who confused being needed with being valued. That man was dead, and honestly, good. He needed to die. At 2 a.m. I sent 3 texts. To Jonathan Price, my attorney. I'm ready. File next week. To Marcus. Thank you. Send final invoice. I'll take it from here. To Tyler. It's happening. I need you. Then I looked at our wedding photo on the mantel. I didn't take it down yet. That would be too obvious, but I took a mental picture of it because I knew that in a few weeks that photo would be in a box somewhere and this house would finally feel like mine again. Lauren thought I'd forgive her. She thought I was still the same guy who'd apologized for checking receipts. The same guy who'd let her gaslight him for 3 years. She thought she could walk back in, and I'd just accept her back because I loved her. She had no idea what was coming. The next 2 weeks were the longest performance of my life. I played the part of the heartbroken husband trying to work through his wife's mistake. I'd come home from shifts, and Lauren would be there cooking dinner. First time in 2 years. She'd ask about my day, wear nice clothes, act like the woman I'd married. It was almost convincing, except I could see right through it now. She wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was trying to fix her situation. But I played along. I'm hurt, but I want to try, I told her. She believed me. Meanwhile, I was meeting with Jonathan to finalize the divorce paperwork. Illinois allows you to cite adultery if you can prove it, and boy, could I prove it. Jonathan put together a filing that was basically a legal nuclear weapon. Petition for divorce, citing adultery and dissipation of marital assets. Request for full asset disclosure. No alimony. She'd out-earned me for years, and the adultery killed any chance of that anyway. And the big one. Reimbursement of approximately $45,000 in marital funds she'd essentially stolen. See, I'd been paying the mortgage on our house. During those 3 years, she was playing house with Christopher. That house was my premarital asset, but I'd been using marital income to maintain it while she was off spending her income on a double life. Jonathan said we had a solid case that she'd dissipated marital assets, and a judge would likely order her to reimburse me. When do you want to serve her? Jonathan asked. November 3rd, I said. Friday afternoon at her office. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. You want to serve her at work? She doesn't work there anymore, I said. She got fired. But she doesn't know I know that. So when the process server shows up asking for her, it'll be extra humiliating. Jonathan almost smiled. You're thinking strategically. I like it. But the divorce papers were just part 1. Part 2 was the social bomb. I spent hours crafting an email. Anonymous. Sent from a Proton Mail account I'd created. Professional tone. Nothing emotional. Just facts. I laid out the timeline of Lauren's affair. Included redacted screenshots. Enough to prove the relationship, but nothing that showed where the info came from. Included photos of her entering Christopher's building. Time-stamped and dated. Included evidence of the money she'd spent. The trips she'd taken. The lies she'd told. The subject line. The truth about Lauren Mitchell, née Stevens. The recipient list was carefully curated. Her boss at Vertex. Even though she'd been fired, I wanted him to see what kind of person he'd employed. HR. 6 of her closest work friends. 10 mutual friends from our social circle. Her parents, her sister Rachel, and 50 people from her LinkedIn network. Colleagues, former bosses, industry contacts. Tyler helped me proofread it. He read it twice, then looked at me. Bro, this is brutal. She'll never recover from this. Good, I said. You're really going to do this? I thought about it. Thought about all the people asking me later if I'd gone too far. If maybe I should have just quietly divorced her and moved on. If public humiliation was really necessary. And then I thought about 3 years. 3 years of lies, 3 years of gaslighting, 3 years of coming home to an empty house while my wife was playing house with a millionaire. 3 years of questioning my sanity, my worth, my reality. Yeah, I said, I'm really going to do this. But I had one more play, the public moment. The thing that would make sure everyone understood that I wasn't just some sad, pathetic cuckold who got cheated on. I was someone who'd fought back, someone who'd set boundaries, someone who knew his worth. There was a community fundraiser coming up on November 10th at our fire station. I'd been organizing it for months. Annual event raises money for the children's burn unit at Lurie Children's Hospital. Big deal in our neighborhood. 150 plus. People usually showed up. Firefighters, families, local politicians, community members. I was scheduled to give a speech. Just a thank you to donors, talk about the importance of community, standard stuff, but I rewrote it. "You're really going to do this at the fundraiser?" Tyler asked when I showed him the new speech. "She thinks we're working on our marriage," I said. I invited her. Told her it would mean a lot if she came, show that we're trying. She said yes. "And you're going to—" "I'm going to thank her," I said. "Publicly, for teaching me about boundaries." Tyler laughed. Not a happy laugh. More like an uncomfortable, holy shit this is really happening laugh. "You're cold, man. Ice cold." Maybe I was. But I'd spent 2 years being calculated. 2 years planning, 2 years becoming someone who could do what needed to be done. And honestly, I was tired of being the nice guy, the guy who got walked on, the guy who saved everyone but himself. On November 2nd, the night before D-Day, I didn't sleep, just lay in bed reviewing the plan one more time. 4 p.m., Friday, November 3rd, divorce papers served. 6 p.m., anonymous email sent to 67 people. 7 p.m., locks changed, her stuff packed and on the porch. November 10th, public speech at fundraiser. Lauren came home around 11 p.m. that night. She'd been out with friends, probably scraping together money or trying to figure out her next move. She kissed my cheek on her way to bed. "Thanks for being patient with me," she said. "Of course," I said, and I thought, tomorrow you find out who I really am. November 3rd, 2023, D-Day. I was at the station when it happened. My shift didn't start until 6 p.m., but I'd gone in early, told the guys I needed to prep for the fundraiser. Really, I just needed to not be home, needed to be around people who had my back. At 4:07 p.m., my phone buzzed. Text from Jonathan. "Served." I imagined it. Process server walking into Vertex Marketing. Except Lauren wasn't there anymore, and probably the whole office knew why. The server asking for her, some awkward conversation, someone eventually giving her contact info. The server tracking her down at wherever she was, coffee shop, apartment, wherever unemployed cheaters go in the middle of a Friday afternoon. The manila envelope, her face when she realized what it was. My phone started ringing at 4:12 p.m. Lauren, I sent it to voicemail. 4:15 p.m., another call, voicemail. 4:18 p.m., another call, voicemail. By 5 p.m., I had 15 missed calls and a dozen texts. "Robert, call me." "We need to talk. What is this? You can't do this. Please call me." I didn't respond to any of them. At 6 p.m. exactly, I sent the email, clicked send, watched it go out to 67 recipients, and felt nothing. Just this strange calm. By 6:15 p.m., my phone was blowing up again. But this time it wasn't Lauren, it was other people. Rachel, Lauren's sister. "Robert, what the fuck? Did you really send this email?" My response. "Every word is true. Check the evidence. Emma, mutual friend." "I just got an email about Lauren. Is this real?" My response. "Unfortunately, yes. My mom, honey, I got a very disturbing email. Are you okay?" My response. "I'm better than I've been in 3 years, Mom." At 7 p.m. I left the station, and drove home. Tyler came with me. He'd taken the night off, said he wasn't going to let me do this alone. When we pulled up to the house, Lauren's car was already in the driveway, but she couldn't get in. I'd had the locks changed at 5 p.m. Locksmith owed me a favor, made it happen fast. Her stuff was packed in 3 suitcases and 4 boxes, neatly stacked on the porch. I'd even labeled them clothes, toiletries, office supplies, misc. There was a note taped to the door. I'd written it that morning. You made your choice. Now live with it. R. We sat in Tyler's truck across the street and watched. At 7:23 p.m., Lauren's car screeched into the driveway. She got out, ran to the door, tried her key. It didn't work. She tried again. Then she saw the boxes. She started pounding on the door. Robert, open the door! I was watching on my phone through the Ring camera. Tyler looked at me. You good? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. Lauren pounded on that door for 10 minutes, screaming, crying, begging. A couple of neighbors came out. I'd warned them this might happen. Told them I was divorcing my wife and she might cause a scene. Mrs. Kowalski from next door walked over to Lauren, said something I couldn't hear. Lauren yelled at her, and Mrs. Kowalski backed away, shaking her head. Finally, after 25 minutes, Lauren gave up. She threw her boxes into her car, didn't even fold the clothes, just threw them in, and drove off. Tyler and I waited another 10 minutes, then went inside. The house was quiet, empty. For the first time in 4 years, it actually felt like mine. The next 48 hours were chaos. Not for me, for Lauren. By Saturday morning, everyone had read the email. Her phone, according to mutual friends who later told me, was destroyed. Hundreds of texts, calls, social media messages. Some sympathetic, most not. Her parents were furious. Her dad, Robert Stevens, actually called me, which was surreal. Robert, he said, I don't know what to say. We had no idea. I know, sir, I said. I didn't tell anyone until now. For 3 years. Yes. There was a long pause. Did you have to make it public like this? And that's when I knew. People were going to question my methods. People were going to wonder if I'd gone too far. But I was ready for that question. Mr. Stevens, I said, your daughter lied to me for 3 years. She used my income to fund a double life. She gaslit me to the point where I thought I was losing my mind. And when her boyfriend abandoned her, she came back to me like I was some kind of consolation prize. So yes, I had to make it public. Because if I didn't, she would have told everyone her version of the story, and I'd be the bad guy who abandoned his wife when she needed him. He didn't have a response to that. Vertex Marketing's CEO sent me an email through Jonathan, oddly enough. He wanted to thank me. Apparently, the evidence I'd provided matched up with their own internal investigation. They'd found that Lauren had billed $12,000 in personal expenses to the company over 2 years. Dinners with Christopher charged as client development. Hotels charged as business travel when she was really just staying at Christopher's place. They'd terminated her for cause, and the email had simply confirmed they'd made the right call. Lauren's close friends, the ones who'd been part of her life for years, split down the middle. Half of them reached out to me saying they had no idea. They were shocked. They felt betrayed too. The other half, well, I got a few angry messages. You didn't have to humiliate her like this. This is cruel. She made mistakes, but she's still human. I didn't respond to those messages. By Monday, November 6th, the professional damage was done. Lauren had applied to 15 jobs in the past month. According to a friend who worked in HR at a competitor agency, she'd gotten 2 interviews. Both companies called Vertex for a reference. Both rescinded their offers after hearing why she'd been terminated. The Chicago marketing scene isn't that big. Word travels. Lauren Mitchell was now known as the woman who'd had an affair with a client, charged personal expenses to her company, and got caught when her boyfriend was raided by the FBI. Nobody wanted to touch her. Her financial situation was even worse. She'd been making $110,000 a year. Now she was making zero. She had about $4,000 in savings. I know because the divorce required full asset disclosure. She had $23,000 in credit card debt, most of it from her Christopher days, designer clothes, expensive dinners, maintaining the lifestyle of a venture capitalist's girlfriend. She had a leased BMW she was paying $580 a month for. She had attorney fees that were already up to $8,500. She moved in with Rachel temporarily, paying her sister $800 a month. But Rachel was resentful. I heard through the grapevine that they'd had a huge fight. Lauren had used Rachel as an alibi multiple times over the years, and Rachel had innocently covered for her not knowing what she was really covering for. When Rachel found out, she felt used. By early December, Lauren had moved out of Rachel's place into a studio apartment in Logan Square. $1,100 a month, which she could barely afford. She'd returned the BMW, couldn't make the payments anymore. She was taking Ubers and public transit. She'd sold most of her designer wardrobe on Poshmark, raised about $3,000. It wasn't enough. And through all of this, I was preparing for the fundraiser. November 10th, 2023, the night I'd been planning for months. The fundraiser was set for 7 p.m. at Station 18. I got there at 5 p.m. to help set up tables, chairs, decorations. Community members started arriving around 6:30 p.m. By 7 p.m., we had maybe 160 people. Bigger turnout than usual. At 6:45 p.m., Lauren walked in. I'd honestly wondered if she'd come. Part of me thought she'd be too humiliated, too angry, too smart to show up to an event where everyone knew her ex-husband was speaking. But she came, dressed professionally, black dress, heels, makeup done, trying to look composed, trying to look like she hadn't just lost her entire life. She sat in the third row, tried to make eye contact with me. I looked right through her. Tyler, standing next to me, muttered, "She actually came. I didn't think she'd come." "She thinks she can fix this," I said. "She thinks if she shows up, acts supportive, maybe I'll soften. Maybe I'll drop the divorce. Maybe she can salvage something. That's delusional. That's Lauren." The event started. Speeches from the fire chief, from a local alderman, from a family whose child we'd saved in a fire last year. And then, at 7:45 p.m., they introduced me. "Our next speaker needs no introduction," the chief said. "He's been with this station for 12 years, he's saved countless lives, and he's the heart of our community outreach programs. Please welcome Robert Mitchell." Applause. I walked up to the small podium we'd set up, looked out at 160 faces, found Lauren in the third row. She was smiling, actually smiling like this was a normal event and we were a normal couple. I began. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I said. My voice was steady, calm. I'd practiced this speech 20 times. "This fundraiser means a lot to me, not just because of the cause we're supporting, but because of what it represents: community, resilience, and showing up for the people who matter." Pause. Let that land. "Over the past few years," I continued, "I've learned a lot about showing up. I've learned that showing up means being there even when it's hard. It means being honest even when the truth is uncomfortable. And it means recognizing when someone in your life isn't showing up for you." I could see Lauren's smile fading. She was starting to realize this wasn't a normal speech. "I used to think my job was to save everyone," I said. "That's literally what I do. I'm a paramedic. If someone's in trouble, I show up and I try to fix it. And for a long time, I thought that's who I was supposed to be in my personal life, too. The guy who fixes things, the guy who holds it together no matter what, the guy who sacrifices without limits because that's what love is." The room was silent now. Everyone was listening. "But I learned something important," I said, and I looked directly at Lauren. "You can't save someone who's already decided to burn everything down." Murmurs in the crowd. Some people knew. Most didn't, not yet, but they were about to. "I want to thank someone here tonight," I said. "Someone who taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. Boundaries." Lauren's face went pale. "She taught me that love isn't about sacrifice without limits," I continued. "It's about respect. It's about honesty. It's about showing up, really showing up, for the person you claim to love. And when someone repeatedly disrespects you, lies to you, betrays you for years while you're trying to hold everything together, you owe it to yourself to walk away." Someone in the back gasped. Lauren stood up abruptly. "So thank you, Lauren," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "for teaching me that I'm worth more than being someone's backup plan, for teaching me that boundaries matter, for teaching me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't saving someone else, it's saving yourself." Applause started, slowly at first, then building. By the time Lauren grabbed her purse and ran out of the room, half the crowd was on their feet. I saw her leave, saw her push through the doors, tears streaming. A few people had their phones out. I'm sure it made it to social media within minutes, and I felt free. After the speech, people came up to me, some offering support, some just wanting to shake my hand. Tyler hugged me. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. An older woman, someone I didn't know, approached me. "Young man," she said, "I've been married 43 years. And what you said tonight, that took courage. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." "Thank you," I said. "Did you really wait 2 years to expose her?" "Yes." She nodded, like she understood something I didn't. "That's how you know you were serious. You didn't act out of anger. You acted out of self-respect." I hadn't thought about it that way, but she was right. The fallout from the fundraiser was immediate and severe. Video of my speech, just the end, the "thank you, Lauren" part, got posted to TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. It went semi-viral in our community. Not millions of views, but enough that everyone in our circle, and their circles, saw it. Lauren became the woman who got publicly called out at a charity event for cheating on her firefighter husband. The story got worse with every retelling. People added details that weren't true. Some said she'd cheated with multiple men. Some said she'd stolen money from me. Some said she'd abandoned me when I was sick. I never corrected these stories. They were close enough to the truth. The moral court of public opinion was split. Half the people I knew thought I was a hero. The other half thought I'd gone too far. One of our mutual friends, Emma, sent me a long text a few days after the fundraiser. "Robert, I'm not defending what Lauren did. What she did was terrible. But that speech, that was cruel. She's struggling. She lost her job. She's broke. She's isolated. Did you really need to humiliate her in public like that? In front of everyone, I feel like you took something private and made it into a spectacle." I thought about responding, thought about explaining that nothing about my marriage had been private. Lauren had made sure of that by living a double life for 3 years, by using mutual friends as alibis, by making me look like an idiot to everyone who knew us. But I didn't respond. Because Emma, like a lot of people, wanted me to be the bigger person, to take the high road, to quietly divorce and move on. But I'd taken the high road for 3 years. And all it got me was gaslit. The real consequence came on December 8th. I heard about it through Tyler, who heard it from someone else. Lauren had a panic attack at a Whole Foods in Lincoln Park. Someone from our community, one of the firefighters' wives, was there and saw Lauren in the produce section. Made eye contact, then deliberately turned away and walked off. Lauren apparently just stood there, frozen, then started hyperventilating in the middle of the store. Someone called 911. Ambulance showed up. The EMTs weren't from my station, but they knew who she was. The story had spread through the entire Chicago Fire Department. They were professional but cold. Lauren was taken to Northwestern Memorial ER. Panic attack, dehydration, emotional distress. She spent 6 hours there, alone. Rachel wouldn't come. Her parents were out of town. She didn't have anyone else. When I heard about this, I felt Complicated. Not guilty, exactly, but not satisfied either. I'd wanted her to face consequences. I'd wanted her to understand what she'd done. But seeing someone have a breakdown in a grocery store? That wasn't triumph. That was just sad. I talked to Dr. Cho about it in our next session. "Are you questioning whether you went too far?" she asked. "Some people think I did," I said. "I didn't ask what other people think. I asked what you think." I sat with that for a while. I think Lauren destroyed me for 3 years. Methodically. Every lie, every deflection, every time she made me feel crazy for noticing things that were real. She destroyed my sense of reality, my self-worth, my ability to trust. And when I finally fought back, when I finally set boundaries and made her face consequences, people acted like I was the monster. "Do you think you're the monster?" "No," I said, "but I think revenge is supposed to feel better than this." Dr. Cho nodded. "Revenge rarely does, because revenge is about making someone else hurt. But what you did wasn't really revenge, it was accountability. You held her accountable for her actions in a very public way, and now she's living with the consequences. That's not the same as revenge. Then why do I feel guilty?" "Because you're a good person," she said. "And good people struggle with hurting others, even when those people hurt them first. But guilt, isn't the same as being wrong. You set boundaries, you protected yourself, and yes, the way you did it was harsh, but after 3 years of gaslighting and betrayal, harsh might have been exactly what was needed." I left that session feeling, I don't know, not better, not worse, just clear. The divorce was finalized on January 22, 2024. Lauren's attorney tried to negotiate, wanted to reduce the reimbursement amount, tried to argue that I'd been emotionally abusive by sending the email and giving the speech. Jonathan shut that down fast. "Your client committed adultery and dissipated marital assets. We have documentation of everything. You can either accept our terms or we can go to trial, where your client will be destroyed even further. Your choice." They accepted our terms. Final settlement. I kept the house, premarital asset. No alimony. She'd out-earned me, plus adultery. Lauren paid me $10,000, reduced from $15,000. I compromised to end it faster. All joint debts split fairly. Clean break. No contact order. I signed the papers in Jonathan's office. Didn't feel anything. It was just paperwork at that point. The marriage had ended 2 years ago when I hired Marcus. This was just making it official. "You did good," Jonathan said after. "Most guys in your position would have rolled over. You protected yourself. That takes strength." "Doesn't feel like strength," I said. "It is, though. You want to know how I know? Because you're walking away from this financially stable, emotionally intact, and with your dignity. That's more than most people can say after a divorce like this." I went home to my empty house, sat in the kitchen where Lauren had begged me to forgive her 3 months earlier. And I realized something. I didn't miss her. I didn't miss the marriage. I didn't even miss the idea of the marriage anymore. I was free. The next few months were about rebuilding, not just my life, but myself. I kept seeing Dr. Cho. We worked through my hero complex, that need to save everyone, to fix everything to be needed. I realized I'd spent most of my adult life confusing being needed with being loved. Lauren hadn't loved me. She'd used me, and I'd let her because being useful felt like being valuable. "You're valuable because you exist," Dr. Cho told me once, "not because of what you do for other people." That was hard to internalize, but slowly, over weeks and months, it started to sink in. Work got better. I was promoted to senior paramedic and training coordinator in February, raised to $76,000, leadership role, more responsibility. I started leading workshops on mental health for first responders. Talked about boundaries, self-care, recognizing when you're giving too much. I became kind of a public figure, in the Chicago EMS community, even spoke at a conference in April about maintaining emotional health in high-stress careers. Tyler convinced me to join the station softball league in March. I hadn't played since college, but it felt good to be part of a team again. To laugh without second-guessing myself. To exist in spaces where nobody was analyzing my every word or action. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during the Lauren years. Started going to trivia nights at a bar in Wicker Park. Took a woodworking class. Built a bookshelf, ugly as hell, but I was proud of it. Went on a fishing trip to Minnesota with Tyler and some guys from the station. Just normal stuff. The kind of stuff I'd stopped doing because I was too busy trying to hold together a marriage that had been dead for years. And then, in June, I met Sarah. Sarah Chen, 34, nurse at Northwestern Memorial ER. We'd crossed paths 100 times over the years. I'd bring patients in, she'd be working triage. We'd exchange polite hellos and move on. But this time was different. I'd brought in a cardiac arrest patient, older guy, didn't make it. After we called it, I was doing paperwork in the hallway and Sarah walked by. Stopped, looked at me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just one of those days." "I heard," she said, and then, "You want to get coffee sometime? Like, not work coffee, actual coffee." As humans, I hesitated. "I don't know if I'm ready for that." She smiled. "It's just coffee, Robert. No pressure." I said yes. Our first date was at a cafe in Logan Square. We talked for 3 hours. She knew about Lauren, mutual friend had mentioned it. But she didn't press. She just asked if I was doing okay, if I was in therapy, if I was taking care of myself. And I was honest with her. "I'm better than I was," I said, "but I'm still working through it. I don't know if I'm relationship material right now." "That's fair," she said. "I'm not looking for anything serious either. I just like talking to you." We took it slow. Coffee dates, lunch dates, group hangs with friends, no pressure, no expectations. And somewhere around our 3rd month of dating, I realized I was happy. Not the manic, desperate kind of happy I'd felt in the early days with Lauren. Just content, comfortable, at peace. In July, a mutual friend told me she'd seen Lauren, still in Chicago, working at a smaller agency, making about $45,000 a year, less than half what she used to make. Single, isolated, apparently in therapy now, trying to rebuild her life. The friend asked if I'd be willing to hear Lauren out, maybe give her closure. I said no, not out of anger or spite, just out of self-preservation. I'd given Lauren 4 years of my life. She wasn't getting another minute. Sarah asked me once in August if I ever regretted how I'd handled things. We were sitting in my backyard. I'd planted a garden, Sarah had helped, and she just asked out of nowhere, "Do you ever regret the speech, the email, the way you did it?" I thought about it. Sometimes I wonder if the public speech was too much, if I should have just filed for divorce quietly and moved on. But no, I don't regret setting boundaries. I don't regret protecting myself. After 3 years of being gaslit and manipulated, harsh might have been exactly what I needed. "Do you think about her?" "Not as much anymore," I said. "Maybe once a week. Usually when something reminds me of how different my life is now, how much lighter I feel." "Lighter?" "Yeah, like I was carrying this weight for years and didn't even know it, and now it's gone." Sarah smiled. "That's healing." And she was right. I didn't think about Lauren every day anymore. I didn't obsess over what she was doing or who she was with. I didn't wake up angry or sad or bitter. I just existed. And that existence felt pretty damn good. October 2024, 2 years since D-Day. I'm 42 now, still living in the same house in Logan Square, but it doesn't look like it did when Lauren lived here. New furniture, fresh paint. That ugly bookshelf I made, plants that Sarah helped me pick out. It's mine now, really mine. Sarah and I are still together. 4 months of officially dating, but it feels longer. She's sleeping over tonight. We're going to make dinner, watch a movie, just exist together. It's easy with her. No games, no lies, no second-guessing every word or action. Just two people who like each other and are building something real. Last week I saw Lauren. I was at Target in Lincoln Park buying paper towels and laundry detergent. Thrilling Saturday afternoon. And there she was. 2 aisles over, looking at cleaning supplies. She looked smaller, tired, ordinary. Not the polished, confident woman I'd married. Just someone getting by. She saw me, froze. We made eye contact for maybe 3 seconds, and I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pity, just nothing. I nodded, polite, neutral, and kept walking. Didn't stop, didn't say anything, just moved on with my day. Later, I told Sarah about it. I saw her, I said, and I felt nothing. Is that weird? That's healing, Sarah said. Same thing she'd said months earlier. How do you know? Because you didn't need to prove anything. You didn't need closure. You didn't need the last word. You just existed in the same space and moved on. That's what healing looks like. She was right. People ask me sometimes if I'm bitter, if I'm angry, if I wish things had gone differently. I'm not bitter. I'm grateful. Lauren taught me what I won't tolerate. Christopher taught me that karma is real. He's still facing federal charges, by the way. Probably won't see freedom for years. And I taught myself that I'm worth more than being someone's safety net. I don't think about revenge anymore. I think about the life I'm building. The one where I'm not trying to save anyone but myself. The one where I wake up every morning and feel lighter instead of heavier. The one where I can sit in my backyard with someone who actually shows up for me and just be happy. For most of my life, I saved people. That's what I do. I'm a paramedic. I'm a firefighter. I'm the guy who runs toward danger when everyone else is running away. And for a long time, I thought that's who I had to be in my personal life, too. The rescuer, the fixer, the martyr. But I learned something in those 2 years of investigation, planning, and eventually walking away. I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't saving someone else. Sometimes the bravest thing is recognizing when you're drowning and saving yourself. Last week, Sarah and I went to the community fundraiser at Station 18, 1 year after the speech. I gave a talk again, but this time it was about resilience, about moving forward, about building a life that doesn't revolve around fixing other people's messes. No mention of Lauren, no hidden meanings. Just me, talking about growth and boundaries and learning to value yourself. The audience applauded. Sarah squeezed my hand. Tyler gave me a thumbs up from the back row, and I realized I'm not the same man I was 2 years ago. I'm not the guy who confused being needed with being loved. I'm not the guy who would have apologized for finding evidence of his wife's affair. I'm someone who knows his worth, someone who sets boundaries, someone who can walk away from toxicity without second-guessing himself. I'm better. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all. Turns out the greatest life I ever saved was my own.